And lastly, here we are with our trip to Strasbourg this past weekend in France, the city of love. Wait, no, the country of love. I've just been on another level recently. Anyway, France, the country of love, which Paris would be the city of love, but Strasbourg is like the cousin of love because it's the Christmas capital of the world. And you can't not love people on Christmas. So, anyway, Robert and I woke up Friday morning, got our stuff together, got it all planned out, took a taxi to a train, took a train to a tram, trammed to the airport, flew in Edinburgh, flew into Basel, Switzerland, and then took a bus to Strasbourg, France, and then walked to our apartment, which was adorable. And there's this big church. You'll see pictures of it at the end. There's a big church and all of Christmas markets everywhere. Everything is decked out in Christmas. The buildings, the streets, everything. They even have specific Christmas menus that they provide to the people. So we're walking through this, and this city is straight out of the freaking 1700s, 1800s. You can just see it now, people, sweeping in their little brooms and doing medieval things. And not that I mentioned the medieval period, but it felt very medieval. But the buildings looked very Tudor English, built with the, I don't know, you have to see the pictures. Anyway, it also looks like you could just see in your mind, it's this small French city, it's near Germany, you could hop over the fence and there it is. And you could just see it World War II, people waving flags out the windows, you could feel it there. It still had that energy, that confidence. Which is funny because on the plane back to Edinburgh, Robert and I were watching, what were we watching? Sherlock Holmes 3, and one of the opening scenes is a bombing, and it's it opens up on this church, and then it pans down to the city street, and Robert and I are both like, oh, that's Strasbourg, and then they say, oh, bombing in Strasbourg, and we were like, we've been there, we were just there, and we were freaking out about it because we were literally just on that street. There's a picture I'll show you at the end of this of us on that street. It was crazy, so that was really cool. But there were so many Christmas markets. We went to day one, when we first got there, we put our stuff in the Airbnb and then went and adventured and just kind of roamed the city. I think a lot of stuff was closed. So we just kind of walked around and explored, see how far we could get off the island, or on the island, because it's an island surrounded by rivers. It's not like it's in the ocean or anything. It's just almost cooler. So we went and we toured around. Next morning we woke up, started our day, went straight to the markets. Well, actually, we got breakfast first, but that's not the point. Straight to the markets. I got 5 crepes for breakfast and lunch. It was delicious. I love them so much. Not as good as mini pancakes in the Glasgow and Edinburgh markets, but still pretty good. So we walked through all these amazing Christmas markets, and it was really beautiful. They got better at night because there were lights up and everything, and everyone was there. I mean, I swear the whole country came out to it. There were so many people. But then we toured the church, and we got to go up in the spire of the church, which was really tall and really beautiful. They have a watchtower on top of the church that used to be viewing. People would go view it, which I can't imagine anyone in the 1800s hiking themselves up that wonderful staircase. But we also learned that the cathedral, how cool is this? The cathedral was from 1647, technically at 1647, in 1647. It was the tallest building for the next 227 years. So it was the tallest building in the world. And now it's still one of the 10 tallest cathedrals in the world. It's beautiful, stunning. The outside, the inside, it's very intricate. It was started in the 10s. So that's good. The 10s, yeah. It used to be a Roman city. So we went into a museum, spent a bunch of time. It was an archaeologial museum, but it used to be the palace of the bishop of the town, and so they have a detailed, room detailed part of the museum. I don't really know how to describe it. It's if you went to Williamsburg and wanted to see what like a real room would look like, or like in Hart Square, you can see what it used to look like. It was like that. So they had like one whole section of the old palace like set up and designed. But in World War II, they like half of it got blown up or whatever and like got shot at, and there were still like bullet holes in the like wood panels that go over the windows. So obviously they changed the glass because they don't want to let the weather in. But there were still bullet holes. How cool is that? So we got to see that, and then the very top, or one of the very top floors of the palace is a art museum full of like all ranges of arts. They had like medieval diptychs and triptychs, and then they went all the way to like not modern art, because there was a modern art museum like over, like a couple streets over, but they went to like past the Renaissance, like they moved into Dutch portraiture and still lifes. So that was really cool. We got to take that tour because it was pouring rain one day, so it was freezing and rainy. And then we ended up getting a lot of food as opposed to like little gifts, but we got the cute, I'll get him, he's the cutest little gnome. Wait there. Look how cute he is. So we got this hedgehog as his friend. Look, it's smiling. And then we got this guy. I mean, how cute. He's holding a mushroom. He's like, here, look at me, mushroom, look at it. So cute. So Robert and I are very excited about that. Robert's decided he wants our Christmas decorations, like for when we get older and have a house and a tree, not a shoebox as an apartment, that he wants to have a mushroom Christmas. So the trees are decorated with like little clusters of like gnome Santas with mushrooms and woodland creatures. Mushrooms are everywhere. In this country, in France, like all the Christmas markets like love a mushroom. So that's super funky. What else did we do? Gosh, I feel like we just packed it in. I ate some very interesting foods. I ordered stew beef, which wasn't stew beef. So that was awful. The language barrier was definitely a problem. It's not like Spanish where you can kind of just guess at what they're saying, especially since they talk so fast and have a thick, like peanut buttery, shout out to Talladega Nights, peanut butter in the back of your throat accent. We had no idea. Because we'd come in, and you're like, oh, bonjour, or like, bonsoir. And Robert, since he does language, has a pretty good accent, regardless of knowing what he's doing. So he'd be like, bonsoir, and they'd be like, oh, French. And then they would just start speaking French. So we'd have to be like, no, we don't know French. Like, parlez-vous anglais? Like, we don't know what you're saying. But what's funny, so Robert practiced and he got reservations for Sunday night, our last night, because we stayed till Monday. And he practiced and practiced and practiced how to say, like, reservation for 2 under heart. Like, the sentence, basically saying, like, we have a reservation. So the guy comes up to the guy, and the guy's like, bonsoir. He's like, bonsoir. And then he says his sentence, but he says it with a Spanish accent. Apparently, I don't know. I was just there. So he says it with a Spanish accent, and the guy, like our waiter, like the host, the owner, hearing Robert have a Spanish accent, spoke to him in Spanish, like responded in Spanish, which of course Robert knows, so it didn't process for him that it was another language until afterwards. So he was like, oh, see, yeah, and they just walked off. And I'm like, what? So then, of course, we sit down, I'm just sitting there, and he's like, how cool was that? I'm like, so cool. What was cool? Like, what? I don't know. I'm just sitting here, just enjoying the view. He said, I spoke to him in French with a Spanish accent. I said, oh, neato. He said, but he responded back in Spanish. I'm oblivious. I'm like, oh, it wasn't Latin? I don't know. Wasn't English? So he was like, it was so cool. And he only did that because when I spoke in French with a Spanish accent, the waitress then spoke in French, and then the hostess realized I didn't understand what she said, so he spoke to me in Spanish. All of this went like way over my head. I had no clue. And then we sat down, and everyone thought we spoke Spanish and French. And Robert speaks Spanish, but it's not like our waitress spoke Spanish. So that was annoying. Oh, in the airport, I forgot about this. In the airport in Edinburgh, I'm like, Robert and I are trying to get to our flight. We like booked it. We were very close to missing it. So I'm like running through the airport. I'm so famished. I'm so hungry because we left at like 11 and our flight wasn't until like 2:30. So I'm looking in the airport. I didn't really want to get like a sandwich or like a soup that I was gonna have to like shovel. I wanted just like finger food. So I was getting like a smoothie and like some M&Ms or something just to like hold me over till we got to a place I could get real food. So I get stuff and Robert's like, hey, we're gonna miss our flight. Like we need to go now. So I like put my stuff back and was like, okay, well I'll get something closer to the gate since we just found out our gate. And I'm in this aisle and the aisle's like probably body width wide. Like you're pretty snug. I had a bag. I'm pretty snug walking through this aisle. And there's a woman at the end of the aisle. And it's like the aisle ends and it's the airport. Like the shop ends with this aisle. And so there's like people everywhere and this woman is standing with a sling with her bag right at the end of the aisle. Just standing there. And she's not doing anything. She's on her phone at the end of this aisle. No one's around her. It's not like she's waiting for someone. So I'm rushing to the end of the aisle. This aisle is huge. So I'm rushing to the end of the aisle, and I stop because she just looks at me as I'm like rushing her direction. And she looks me dead in the eyes and says, I'm not going to move so you can find another way to get out of the store. Pardon, ma'am. And I said, oh, that's fine. And I just, with all my luggage and everything I'm carrying, just pretty much plowed her over to get out of the place because I'm clearly in a rush. And she, as I'm walking away after I've just plowed her over, she goes, do you not see that I'm in a sling? I said, I'm really sorry. And just like kept going. And Robert shouts back, I didn't know, a sling on your arm meant you couldn't walk. He's like, I should have said, I don't see one on your leg. Like, he was so mad. But she was so rude. I was struck. I mean, people here, they're not rude. I mean, in Glasgow, they're not rude. If you bump someone, they're like, oh, I'm sorry, did I bump you? Like, they feel bad that they were in your way. But homegirl was, like, resolute and standing still, which is just ridiculous. I'm like, you're not doing anything. Like, just scoot, like, all I needed was, like, that much more space. Or my bag wouldn't have bumped you. I was so fired up. And then I slept on the bus and on the train and on the flight because I was so fired up. And I remember something else negative happened, but I don't remember what it was. It was one of those things where you're like, excuse me, I didn't know, but I can't remember. If I think of it, I'll add it at the end. But so yeah, that was our trip to Strasbourg. It was wonderful. It is a Tuesday now. We are inching towards exams. I've got two of mine, well, technically one of mine due tomorrow. I had the other one due tomorrow, but then they gave us a 5-day extension. So now I have time to finesse it and like rip it to shreds. So it'll be due next Wednesday, which gives me more time to do the things I gotta do. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I've got a gift exchange coming up with the gals. And we're doing like movie night tomorrow night. We're watching a bunch of Christmassy movies. And Saturday, Robert and I are going to go to George Square, like the new market that popped up. But I'm also going to go shopping with the ladies when he goes back to work. Because there's something in Glasgow where everything's open till like whatever, midnight or something ridiculous. It's like another Black Friday, but it's on a Saturday. Whatever. But hopefully I'm going to find myself a Christmas gift since we got Robert's Christmas gift at a market. It's a wool sweater. He knows that. He's been wearing it. So now I have to find myself something for him to give me. So what can you do? So yeah, if anyone has any questions or anything, I will answer them. I don't know. Who knows? Okay, well, I'll hit you guys back next week, and then I'll be like a week away from seeing my parents and my dog and my siblings and my family. Woo! So anyway, see you guys in like, I don't know, I'm not counting. I mean, who's counting? But it'll be like, a week from Saturday, so whatever, like 15 days. So anyway, okay, bye.
Ah, c'est 20% de gens en plus. T'as multiplié par exemple, il y a plein de gens en français qui viennent à Strasbourg.
Je me dis, t'as déjà vu le film?
Salon.
You know that's not cheers and...
Cheers.
I remembered another part of our adventure that I forgot to tell everyone. So, when we got on the bus from the airport to go from Basel to Strasbourg, France, and I remember the other part too. Oh, I'm so glad I remembered it. So we got on this bus, but it was like 45 minutes late. And in Glasgow, buses are on time to the point of like maybe leaving early, which is dangerous. This bus was 40 minutes late. So this woman like tells us that in French, and we're trying to figure out like what she said. And then this girl comes over, really sweet. She was speaking English, thank heavens, and she was like, "Hey," actually she was British. She was like, "Hello." I'm like, "Hi, English, what's up?" Because everything's been in another language. She was like, "Hi, yeah, are you waiting for the bus?" I'm like, "Yes, we are." She's like, "That's great, so am I." I'm like, "Oh, that's great." So then she starts telling us how this bus is apparently always late. She used to live in Strasbourg. She said it is consistently like 45 to an hour late. Like rarely is it on time, which is good to know, in the future if we ever go back, which we hopefully should because it's amazing. So we get on the bus or whatever, and then we get to the city and we're doing our thing, and then we realize if it's always late, then we should get an earlier bus to make sure we get to our flight on time, because our flight leaves at 3:30 and we're supposed to get on the bus at 12, which would put us there at 2 because it's a 2-hour flight or 2-hour bus ride. What would give us, an hour and a half. That's plenty of time, unless it's late, in which case it is no time. So then we were like, okay, well, we'll just get an earlier one. Well, the next earliest one is 7. So we were like, okay, 7 it is. Well, then it's booked. So the next earliest one's 6:30, also booked. So we have to get on the 5:30 bus, which means we'll get there at 8 o'clock. And our flight isn't until 3:35. So that stunk. We bussed our little butts all the way to Basel. The sun was still not up when we arrived in Switzerland. So then we're sitting there like, what do? Do we sit in the airport for 7 hours? Like, this is going to suck. So we decide to go into Basel, Switzerland, which means we had to go like upstairs and then cross the border because the airport's on the border. So like we got out of the airplane in France and we just walked in Switzerland and walked to France, which was cool. I've walked across 2 countries. And we walked into Switzerland, took a Swiss guy who didn't know any English into Basel, went to a Christmas market. I ate a whole baguette. Like, what can you do? That's where we got. No, that's not where we got our gnome guy. We tried to get gnome guy a friend, but he was very expensive, so we didn't get him. We walked around. We saw another beautiful church, not as big, not as beautiful, but who can judge? Who can judge a church? So then all that happens. Everything else I said is still appropriate, and then we get finally, after taking the bus, being in the airport for so long, we finally get home to Edinburgh. We still have to take a tram to the train station to get to Glasgow to take a cab back to our apartment. It's been a long day. We get into the airport and we're like, okay, gotta go through customs, gotta go through border, like, let's roll. So I'm reading the signs. They're all in English, obviously. And it says, UK passport and these following countries use the e-gates, which is where they take a picture of you and it just like lets you in. So the picture documents that you're like, you scan your passport, picture in the country. So I'm like, okay, American. The little American flag is on that sign. So I'm marching and I'm getting my stuff together. I have all my bags, all my goodies. We get there and we like pull up and then all of a sudden it says like, you need to be stamped if you're in the following countries. And our little flag is in that one. I'm like, okay, so do I go to the border or do I go to the e-gate? Like, who do I talk to? So then this lady's directing traffic, being all directorial. Hi, like, do we go here, like it says, or do we go to the other place, like it says? She's like, oh, well, no, you go here unless you're a student. Like, well, we're a student. She's like, oh, go ahead, go to the other line. You need to be talking to someone. I'm like, perfect, thank you. So we jump to the front of the other line to talk to the border people. Great. So we get up there and they said, hi. I'm like, hi. So I hand him my passport. Robert's next to me. He hands him his passport. And they look at it and they're like, where's your BRP, which is a bio-residence permit, which proves that we have residence in the UK. Like, we're allowed to be here. And Robert and I didn't bring it because we didn't think to. Like, why would I need it? I have a visa in my passport, in my mind. And also, no one ever told us we couldn't come back to the country if we didn't have it. So I'm like, I don't have it with me. She's like, oh, well, you need it. Okay, well, it's in the country. I'm like, okay, I live in Glasgow, so I don't know what you want to do. I mean, I'm in Edinburgh. We're still like 45 from Glasgow at the least, and it's on my bookshelf. So I was like, I don't know what you want to do. And so she scanned my passport and she took our fingerprints and she's like, what are you in school for? So I had to answer all these questions. And this whole time she's like, I really need your BRP card. Like, I really need it. I'm so sorry, ma'am. Like, I don't have it. Like, so finally I said, okay, what can I do to make this easier? What can I do to get this like sorted out? And I have a lady, Robert has a man. They're in that shared booth with a glass. And then there's a lady just sitting in the back of the booth, just like watching all this go down, like making snide comments here and there. This is the other rude thing I was talking about. So I'm like, oh, what can I do? What can I do? And she's like, I don't know. And then finally, the lady in the back pipes up and says, I mean, you can't come into our country without that, so there's nothing really you can do. Ma'am, are you going to handcuff me? I don't think so. So, how can I get into the country? So luckily they just fingerprinted us and we're like, oh yes, you're in our system. Ta-da, welcome to Scotland. So now we have to make sure we take our BRP cards everywhere. Don't worry, I've already put it in my passport so that when I come home, it will be there. But it was just really frustrating. So anyway, that was our adventure. Talk to you guys later. If I remember anything else, which I probably will, I'll throw it up. Bye!
Lord, let me find him, that I may see him.
The seasonal appearance of Loch Glasgow. Oh, crap. Ugh.